All right, welcome to Patterns and Grids.
So we're going to basically go over how to create textures and create grids to like this to set up a scene where you can apply either filter effects or texture effects to each image. So the nine grid texture, basically nine grid image here of these same faces duplicated over and over and over. So the top left one has a filter applied, and the bottom three have some texture effects, which I'll show how to do in another tutorial. But let's get to this. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new document. So we're going to go File, New. And actually, before I even go there, I do want to point out that I am working in the latest version of the Creative Cloud, Adobe Photoshop. So if you go to All Apps, download Photoshop, get the latest version. But if you go to Updates, you can get the latest version there if you already have Photoshop already installed. And the latest version I'm working on is 2021. It's a nice little update. So I just wanted to show you that. So now I'm going to go File, New. And basically, we're going to create a custom document. So you want to first make sure over here on the right that this is set to inches. So this could be set to pixels or centimeters, millimeters, points, picas. Just make sure it's set to inches. And then you're going to type in 12 by 12. So we're basically creating a square in terms of the height and the width. And then for the resolution, we want this to be 300, not 72. So make sure that's 300 and then click Create. And now we have our custom document. Now we're going to go to create our grid layout. We need to go to the View menu and go down to New Guide Layout. Once we open that up, we've got our new guide layout, and we're going to make sure these are checked. Sometimes they're unchecked. So the columns and the rows, we want these checked. And type in a value of 3 and 3. Sometimes you'll have a gutter value in here, like 0.25 or some other value. And looks like I typed in the wrong digit. There we go, 0.25. And you can see what happens with if I have a gutter value here. Essentially, you have spacing between the lines, and we don't want that. So to get rid of these, all you gotta do is highlight them and hit the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac. And then just make sure these are 3 and 3, and then click OK. Now, if I hover over the guide, you can see I can actually move it, and I don't want to do that accidentally. So I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go down to Lock Guides. That'll prevent me from actually grabbing it, right? So it says, you can't grab it because it's locked layer, essentially. So the next thing I want to do is when I go to View here, I actually want to snap to guides. So since we're in here, when I bring in the image, so I'm going to go to View and Snap to Guides, and that will allow me to snap an image to these guides very easily. So again, just make sure you have lock guides turned on, and the snap will be turned on by clicking on Snap to Guides. Rulers don't have to be on, so I can uncheck that. You can have them on or off. That's up to you. So let's go ahead and grab an image to put in here. And if we go to a great site called pexels.com, P-E-X-E-L-S.com, you can click in here in the search menu and type in faces. It has a memory of my recent searches, so I'm just going to click on faces here. And this is the one I chose last time, so I'll go ahead and click on it again. And what's great about this site is these are open source photos for both personal use and commercial use, which is quite nice. So I'm going to click on free download here. And then in the download menu down here at the bottom, go to show in folder. And then I'm just going to right click on the image and go open with and choose the latest version of Photoshop 2021, which will bring it in here. So there's a couple different ways to bring it into this document here. You can simply drag with the top tool here, the move tool. You can drag up to the tab and then drag down and then release the mouse. You have to hold the mouse down the whole time though. So that's critical. So hold down the mouse, drag up to the tab. Once it changes over, drag down and then release the mouse. If you release it beforehand, it won't come in here. So I'll demonstrate that by hitting Control Z or Command Z on a Mac. So if I drag up to the tab and then release here on the tab itself, you'll see there's no image in here, okay? So it's critical that you drag up to the tab and then drag down and then release, and you'll see it on its own layer. I'm gonna show you another way to bring it in. If you want to select the entire layer, you can do it through hotkeys like Control A, Control C, and then click on the tab and then hit Control V and it will paste in here. Another way to do it is we can unlock the layer, double click on the layer, and then click OK. And then go to the edit and choose the copy command right here. So whichever way you like to do, you can do any of these. Then click on the next tab and then go to edit and then choose paste. And voila, it's in here now. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna free transform this. We need to shrink this down to one of these little squares, and it's quite large right now. So I'm gonna go to edit and go down to the free transform tool. It has a lovely hotkey of a Control T or Command T on the Mac. And I can start grabbing a corner here and scaling downwards. And then I can move it into position like this and keep dragging downwards. So what I'm essentially doing here is I want to drag it into a degree where basically I'm able to see main photo start covering up that square there. Now, one thing I want to point out real quick is if you have it scaled up quite a bit like this, and the bounding box is outside your area, you can hit Control minus to kind of zoom out a little bit and then grab a corner, and that may make it easier to scale in. Then just hit Control plus or Command plus on the Mac. It's Control minus plus basically, or Command minus plus on the Mac. And then I'm just going to basically reposition this figure, kind of center it a little bit on there. And then all I have to do to accept this transformation is click the little checkbox up here in the top or hit the Enter or Return key on the Mac. And then basically I have it in here. Now you'll see it's overlapping. So what I want to do is I want to mask this off. Now I have, remember I have my snap on, which is good. That's real critical for this process. So you got to make sure you have the snapping on. So I'm going to click on the second tool here. It's the rectangular marquee tool. And I'm going to click on one corner and drag across till I get to this other corner here and then release. And you should see a little marching ants, I call them, around that selected area. Now what we're going to do is we're going to essentially mask off the rest. And the way we do this is we go down here to the layers, the bottom. There's this square with a circle icon. And if you hover over it, it'll say Add Layer Mask. So I'm going to click on that. And like magic, we have a mask. So the mask basically hides or subtracts the image. It doesn't permanently delete it though. So if I hold the Shift key over this, you can see the image is still there. So it's kind of cool. So what I want to do now is I want to click on the left icon, the actual layer here, the thumbnail. And by the way, if your thumbnail is not big like mine are, if you right click in the gray area here, you might have it set to small. You can right click in here and choose large thumbnails for the preview. So what I'm going to do here is I want to convert this to a smart object. So this will maintain the proportions and everything will be kind of nice that way. So I'm going to right click in the gray part of this layer and go to Convert to Smart Object. And that will give it a kind of protection. So now I'm going to click on the top arrow tool, and then I need to basically duplicate and snap this to these different areas. So a very easy way to duplicate is to hold the Alt key down or the Option key on a Mac and simply drag out. Once you do that, you have a copy, and then you'll see it just sort of snaps to place, which is really nice. And it pops on its own layer. So again, I'm just holding an Alt, drag, and then basically letting it snap. Now I have 3 of these. Now I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to hold the Shift key. So I'm going to click on the top one, hold the Shift key, click on the bottom one here. And now I have all 3 selected. With all 3 layers selected, I'm going to hold the Alt key again and drag down. And then let it snap to the grid there. And then just repeat that action. Hold Alt and snap, just like so. Now it looks like this one's not quite right. Looks like it went to the left a little bit. So I just need to nudge it over with all 3 of these selected. If any of them individually are not out of the way, you can click on one of these at a time and kind of move them around just to make sure they're all in a line. So here's my 9 grid layout. This looks good. I have 9 layers essentially and a background layer here set up. So what we're going to do is we want to save this out as a different document. We want 2 separate documents. So now I'm going to go File, Save As, and the first one I'm going to call it Face 1, and then I can add my name, Kleckner. And then I click Save, and then click OK. Then I'm going to go File, Save As, and then the next one I'm going to call Face 2, Kleckner. So what I can do here is just click in here and hover over the 1 and hit 2, and then click Save. And then click OK when this maximum capability comes up. So now I have 2 separate documents in here. So I can close out this little guy, the photo. I don't need to save that. And if I go to File, Open, I should be able to open up that Face 1 document. And click Open. And so now I have Face 1 and Face 2. These are 2 separate documents, which the next tutorial we'll discover how to use filters on one of these. And the other one will do patterns with a blend modes. Until next time, see you soon in Adobe Photoshop. Cheers!